Well, hi there, I'm Casey.
And I'm Corey.
And we are the Wright Brothers. I'd like to welcome you to our January 2008 podcast.
That's right. It's our second January podcast ever since we started these last year.
That's right.
We'd also like to take this opportunity to say Happy New Year to every one of you. We know that this is going to be an extremely successful year for every one of you.
Got a great feeling about 2008.
Well, we wanted to take a little bit of time in our January podcast this year to look back at 2007. What were some of the major technology storylines that affected consumers, that affected professionals, that it affected just about anybody, and what the effect was on real estate, and then more fun.
Yeah, we'll be taking a look ahead at what's going to be coming up in 2008. We'll sort of whip out our crystal balls and peer into the future and tell you what everyone's going to be talking about next year. So without any further ado, let's dive in. 2007 was a very fun year. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Alright, Cor, so 2007, very exciting year, a lot of big technology storylines. Tell me, what was the biggest trend of 2007 for you in the technology world?
In my opinion, it was kind of a piggyback of what was maybe the biggest trend in 2006. In 2006, we saw social networking become the big thing. People started to understand and hear about social networking. I'm talking about YouTube and MySpace and blogs. People starting to interact with other people online. In 2007, it became mainstream. We saw the mainstreamization, if you will, of social networks, where people really started to feel comfortable with this. Not just high schoolers and college-age kids were starting to tap into these social networks, but your grandparents and your grandchildren alike were communicating through these social networks.
Absolutely.
In addition, not only did we start to see multiple people, a lot of different people tap into these, we saw them tap into them for a lot of different uses. No longer was it just to connect with friends and family. Now people started to use it for business and use it to advertise and use it to share a wealth of knowledge in new ways that we had seen before. So the mainstreamization of social networking.
And what do you think? Is this just because, blogging, this is just a natural trend, a natural extension of what was going on in 2006, or do you think there's something going on here? Are there new technologies that's inspiring this?
I don't think it's necessarily somewhat the new technology. People are becoming more familiar and more comfortable with cameras and with video now and putting it on their computer and sharing it. So a lot of that, but I think it really just speaks to who we are as individuals. We love to share about ourselves and we love to feel connected with other people, and that's exactly what the social networking allows us to do, is connect with other people.
So true. I have a couple blogs myself, and I know I love them. So I think, and just for the reasons you're talking about. Tell me, what do you think this means for real estate agents? How do you respond to the mainstreamization of blogging?
I think it's important to tap into it, and if you haven't already, find an area of it that you really can feel passionate about, something that you like and that will interest you, and dive into it. Whether it's starting to use it to market your homes online or find buyers online or start your own blog that might share some information, whether it be real estate related or related to one of your interests or passions or hobbies, whether it's creating a MySpace page. There's a lot of ways that you can start to tap into this social networking, but it is going to become very important over this year that you do tap into some sort of social networking so that you can start to reach all those people out there, because that's really where people are starting to go, is they want to feel connected.
I smell an upcoming podcast.
Perhaps. Talk to me, Casey. What do you think, what was your big storyline for 2007?
I would say the biggest story of 2007 for me, the thing that I will always remember, is that at the beginning of the year, when I pulled out my cell phone out of my pocket, it was a cell phone. It made phone calls, and that's about it. At the end of the year, when I pulled out the cell phone out of my pocket, it was a fully fledged mobile computer that could watch videos, that could listen to music, that could browse the internet. And I think that experience was one that I had that a lot of people had this year, is that this was really the year where the smartphone got smart and it became a completely new mobile platform. And you started to see, Google and Apple and all the big players started to move a lot of their development teams over to creating systems for this new mobile platform. And I think what we're starting to see is that where a couple years ago we all sort of thought of the internet as something that you do at home, on your computer, or maybe when you have a laptop out, at a cafe. Now we're starting to see the internet as something that happens to you everywhere. It can be totally, seamless. You can have it wherever you go, and I think that's just going to really change fundamentally the way we communicate with each other.
So the mainstreamization of smartphones.
Exactly. A lot of mainstreamization this year.
Tell me, why did it become so mainstream? It's because the technology became so much better, because consumers became so much more comfortable with it?
I would say that it's more of the first, but it's definitely a little bit of the second. I think that what started to happen is, first of all, you had the big jump start was the iPhone release in June. I mean, when that happened, it really raised the bar for everybody. And it got a lot more people who had never really thought about smartphones before starting to think about it, because previous smartphones have really been designed for corporate users, for government users, and the iPhone was designed for college kids. for people who love movies, for people who love music, and that's a lot larger audience. And so I think that technology drew a lot more people to the table, and it was also just seamless and easy to use. It raised the bar for all the other cell phone manufacturers, and once that starts to happen, people do start to get more comfortable with the technology. Then there's another sort of cyclical effect. Once people become more comfortable with the technology, it draws more people to the market and they start creating better technology. And I think we're just in that cycle now.
Well, sounds like a positive cycle anyways.
Certainly for consumers.
What does it mean for realtors?
For realtors, I think the thing right now is don't overreact to this. I mean, it's certainly not time to revamp your entire website for a mobile user. But I do think we're going to be there in a couple years. I mean, I think there's a lot of storylines sort of going that way. What I would say right now is that the thing that you can do is make sure that your website is viewable on a mobile phone, which isn't too hard to do. And then the other thing is next time you go out to buy a phone, make sure it's a smartphone. Get familiar with the potential, get familiar with the expectations and limitations of this platform.
All right.
So, okay, let's break out the crystal ball. Let's take a look at 2008. What do you think is going to be the biggest technology story in 2008?
I think that we're going to see the emergence of free. I think things are going to start to become free.
I like that.
We've already seen, and what I mean here is, your wireless internet is going to become free. I think that your cable television will become free sometime in the near future. I think that your cell phone bill is going to become free. You're going to start to see a lot of things like that. We've already seen small taste of this. Things like in Philadelphia, where you have free wireless internet for the whole city.
VoIP is a very inexpensive phone call.
Exactly. Voice over IP is a way of doing that. There's talks of Google perhaps purchasing the 700 spectrum, which could allow them to start to bring cable television to us for free.
Very exciting.
There's talks of the G phone, the Google phone, which would be...
Of course, Google denies all this stuff, but we can speculate about it wildly.
Exactly. I think that in some facet or another, whether it is Google, who I think it will be, or it is somebody else, that people are going to start to bring things to us for free.
Absolutely. Now tell me, there's got to be a trade-off for this. What is the trade-off? What are we giving up?
The trade-off, and I don't know if it's even necessarily a trade-off, is going to be advertising, though. That's how these things are going to get paid for, is through advertising. Now, the good news here is that I think the bar for advertising has been raised so much over the last couple of years. Consumers have such a short attention span. The DVR, we fast forward right through and we find ways around it, that advertisers and marketing companies have really understood that in order to advertise effectively, you have to entertain, you have to inform, you have to bring stuff that consumers truly enjoy. And for these technologies to become free and sustainably free, they need to have some sort of advertising that consumers will draw to and attach to.
Well, and I think a little bit what you're talking about too is that the technology allows them to market in a much more effective way. I mean, when you can directly pinpoint where somebody is with GPS, you can say, hey, there's a great pizza joint down the street, maybe you should go to it.
Exactly. There's so many new ways that they can advertise it that they get to start getting creative, and it gets to start helping us out and entertaining and informing us and bringing stuff that is so much more relevant and pertinent to who we are because of the information that they have on us. So,
well, and I think it's very likely too, something that I've heard a lot about is that it's going to start to combine with social networking to where not will it just tell you that, hey, there's a pizza joint down the street, it'll say, hey, your friend Corey is at a pizza joint down the street, would you like to join him?
Exactly, absolutely. So, tell me, what do you see in your crystal ball being the storyline of 2008?
Okay, big storyline in 2008. I thought about this long and hard. I think it's really going to be the convergence of the computer and the television. And I think what's going to start to happen, we've seen this happening for a while, where TVs are starting to look more like computers and computers are starting to look more like TVs. You see a lot of mobile video sites emerging online. iTunes has been wildly successful. NBC just started their new thing. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to commoditize video online. Of course, that's what the whole writer's strike is about right now.
Right.
And then on the alternate side, you see a lot of these things that we're talking about, this DVR trend, all of those are features that emerge from the digital revolution. So I think what we see is a real convergence that's been happening for a while, and I think we sort of have this perfect storm brewing where I think the old media models, the old ways of watching television are sort of getting outdated. They're becoming obsolete. Certainly advertisers are waking up to this and spending a lot more money online, which is forcing the television markets to figure out how to sort of reconcile all this. So I have a feeling that by the end of 2008, we are going to be watching TV in a fundamentally different way than at the beginning of the year. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to materialize, but I think it could be something really interesting.
Which is probably great news for all of you who just got that new plasma television that you wanted for Christmas, right?
Exactly.
So now you're telling them that they're going to be watching on their computer.
Hey, when they mark these things down, it's not a coincidence. It's usually because they have something else brewing.
So I say free and you say they just wasted their money.
Exactly.
I'm sure they like me a little bit better. Well, that's what we thought were the top storylines of 2007 in technology, what they meant for you, what the top storylines will be in 2008 when we revisit this in January 2009. Hopefully we'll be talking about some of these. We'd like to thank you for joining us in our podcast as always. We wish you a very successful 2008. We'll be right here with you every step of the way for anything you need. And now for our upcoming publications.